But I'll tell you, the more and more I think about what's happening, I was trying to think about the last time the Giants had a game this big, this late in the year, and obviously it had to be the boat year, the playoff boat year.
Yep.
And
McAdoo.
This is huge for them, and it looks like they're going to get some guys back, which is really good. And they're going to be playing against a team. While they have been winning, it hasn't been pretty. Like, it's been a grind for the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, and they haven't played great teams either outside of the Eagles. They beat the Eagles, but some of these other games they were supposed to win. Well,
that was it. That was a pretty impressive win. They ran the ball, they held the ball.
Right.
They didn't turn the ball over. That kind of thing. It was one of those games where the Eagles, they probably, I don't want to say they mailed it in, but I think that they had injuries on the defensive line. It showed itself, and then all of a sudden, when you get a team like Washington or the Giants, teams that are trying to get where the Eagles are, and you give them a little bit of breathing room in a game, then all of a sudden the confidence comes back, and then you can kind of feel like you got this. You can beat these guys.
Yeah.
So they're a good team. They're not a great team, but I think for the Giants and the Giants fans, this is like one of those, I said crossroads moments for the Rangers the other night, which is really disappointing. And the reason it was crossroads is because you're playing one of the better teams in the league. It's one of your rivals who haven't been good for the last 7, 8, 9 years. And now all of a sudden they come in and they beat your ass on your home ice. That's why it's a crossroads, because now everybody's got to look at themselves and say, what do we need to do better in order to win? And that's where the Giants are, I think, because the Giants have had a nice little flow here. They've lost 2 in a row, but they're still very much in the mix. And this is a team that reflects who they are. And that's why you have to win this home game. You cannot sit back. You got to go out there and you got to play your ass off. And for me, it's also kind of like, this is like the Daniel Jones moment.
Yeah, this is where he's going to make a lot of money or not. I mean, I think that he's going to have a job next year in the NFL, obviously, but at what team, what price? Is he going to be a starter? All those things are going to be determined over the next couple of games. And Saquon Barkley as well. Now, I mean, he does not look the same as he did early on in the season. Daniel Jones was even asked about that yesterday. Is Saquon the same guy? Is he healthy? All of this. He goes, oh, yeah, no, he's great still. I'm excited to see him on Sunday. But that's been a big difference between the Giants early on in the season and the Giants now, is that Saquon Barkley the last couple of games has been in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s with rushing yards, as opposed to, leading the league with like 150 scrimmage yards like he was when the Giants were winning.
This is why teams want 3 running backs. And I know that they have some other guys, but, he's so much better than them when he is healthy.
Yeah.
It's impossible for a running back to make it through an entire 17-game season without having something nagging at them if they're playing. A lot of times guys won't play because the coaches won't let them play, or the trainers won't let them play because they're just not right. And whether it be a shoulder, whether it be a thigh, it could be anything. These guys, have the hardest job in sports. I don't care what anybody says. Taking a football in an NFL game and running it 25 times is a beast. It is a beast. And that's why, like for me, for my money, Saquon, somewhere between 15 and 20 times running with it and 5 or 6 times catching it is like the premium, what I would want. I don't want him touching the ball 35 times a game. I don't want Derrick Henry touching the ball 35 times a game.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's a 17-game season, and if they do make the playoffs, you need all hands on deck, and you need a healthy Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, and he hasn't looked healthy the last couple of weeks, and he's had a spectacular year overall, and the Giants are going to need him if they're going to make the playoffs. And Giant fans were all pissed off at me again yesterday. It's sort of funny how, like, the Giant fan base is they're either gunning for you or they're gunning for me. They were gunning for you for a while.
Why are they gunning for you now?
They're gunning for me because I said they weren't going to win a game the rest of the year. Remember that yesterday? I said they're not going to win a game the rest of the year, and I asked you on a scale of 1 to 10, how crazy am I for saying that? And you gave it a 3. So like a 10 would be the craziest, a 1 would be the least crazy.
Not so crazy.
It's not so crazy.
No.
And oh, by the way, there's a chance that they're not favored in a game the rest of the year. They could be favored in that Indianapolis game, but when we get there, we'll find out because that team is so up and down, hot and cold. I don't know what the hell they are. So by then, they could be favored in that game maybe by 3 points, something like that. Or they could be an underdog like they are against the Washington Commanders if the Indianapolis Colts get hot over the next couple of weeks. But, they're not going to be favored in any of these games. If they're not favored at home against the Commanders, they're not going to be favored on the road against the Commanders. They're not going to be favored in either one of the Philadelphia games. And they're, they're not going to be favored in Minnesota. So
Look, they've lost 3 out of their last 4. The most amount of points they scored was against Houston. That was a 24-point outburst. After that, everything else is less than that. They generate very little offense. If you pointed out about Saquon, it's not just about him. It's everything. The passing game is one of the worst in the league. Mm-hmm. There's nobody that is scaring anybody on the opposing defense. We talk about the impact that Tyreek Hill has had for the Miami Dolphins. It's obvious. You can see just what his speed does to everybody else that they're playing against and how everybody else he's playing with benefits, including Tua.
Yeah.
And, that's just not who the Giants are. The Giants are so far away from being that. I don't know why Giant fans would even think anything less than what you're saying. I mean, you're not trying to say it to insult anybody.
No.
You're just trying to say it because you think that's your opinion and because the proof is in the performance. I mean, they lost 27-13 to Seattle. They won 24-16 against Houston. They lost 31-18 to Detroit. And then, of course, they lost 28-20 with an, by the way, touchdown at the end.
Right. It was really 13 points, and it was all of that happened in the first half before that garbage touchdown.
They just don't score a lot of points, and They haven't scored a lot of points. Even when they win 21-20, 19-16, 20-12. 27-20. It's crazy. They cannot score more than 24 points.
Yeah, 27 one time.
And that was the London game against the Packers.
That's right. Yeah, and so that's the one time that they have scored over 24 points. So this year, what they've gotten out of it has been gravy. I think they're on the right track. And this is the reason why I think it's just funny to me, because all we've said is how great Joe Shane and Brian Dable have been since they've gotten here and how the future is bright for the Giants. This particular group that is out here right now in year one, I don't think can compete with the best in the NFC. Now, they're still right there, and it's ahead of them, and they could still make noise. They could run the table and shock all of us and then go to the playoffs. It's all right in front of them. Control your own destiny, all that stuff. I just don't think it's going to happen. I just don't think they're that team.
Well, they're not that team, but this is another thing. If Daniel Jones somehow gets this team to the playoffs, he'll deserve a new contract, and he'll deserve to stay here. And it will probably be on some sort of modified contract. And if I were him, I would stay here too. If I can somehow get this team to the playoffs, look, they have to rebuild around him. And, Brandon Beane did this up in Buffalo, and Joe Shane watched it.
Yeah.
And whether it's Daniel Jones or whether they draft another kid, that's yet to be seen. But I just, to be realistic about what's going on right now, this is a game, if they lose this game, it's done. They're done. I think they're toast. That's why this game is so important for them.
Yeah, and there's a reason why they're an underdog at home to the Commanders, and the Commanders are they've won 6 out of 7.
That's right.
So it's just they're going in different directions, and I think that Chase Young is coming back this week, finally. So you would think that he's going to make an impact as well as one of the better edge rushers in football. So it's going to be, we said that the Lions game was important. This one even more important at this point to try to save their season and try to make it to the postseason.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.